everybody. So the first thing I'll say is I'm not a scientist, and a county planning organization has absolutely no power to do anything land-related in New York State, right? It's a home rule state, so it's up to the municipalities. So all we could do is educate and inspire people. So what we do is take science. I regularly work with people from the DEC, and as you'll see here, we work with Cary Institute of Ecosystem Studies, Bill Schlesinger, no relation, and Michael Clements to help us flesh out what our biodiversity blocks are. I'll explain those as they go along. But anyway, so this is part of the inspiration, and that's kind of my job, how to communicate effectively different ideas that we have and we can send out to the communities. So for quite a while now, we've been working on our Centers in Green Spaces planning principles. Dutchess County is, I think, still unique in New York State. We have 30 of our 31 communities are Greenway Compact communities. Through that process, we have a book of Greenway guides. The Centers in Green Spaces planning plan is going to become part of those guides. This is a living book we put together of good planning principles and suggestions that communities can use in their zoning and comprehensive plans. So the Centers in Green Spaces plan, it's a way of counteracting suburban sprawl. Suburban sprawl is inefficient use of land. It's bad for nature, and it's bad for humans too, because you got to drive everywhere because you're so far away from anything. So healthy for communities, healthy for humans, healthy for nature. It's a way to preserve farmland and habitat. Our centers are our historic hamlets. We have a lot of hamlets that have been around since 1700s. How can we reinforce those with a kind of complete community? If they're missing something like a grocery store or a drugstore or library, whatever, how can zoning possibly change that mixture so that you would have a walkable, complete community that might be linked to transportation so that you don't have to drive everywhere? Along with the historic hamlets, we have a lot of crossroads that are right now quote-unquote incomplete communities where it's just either suburban development around them or gas stations, but there's no place to walk to. So what can you get to walk to and have, again, a healthy environment for humans while changing the zoning potentially in the rest of the municipality to preserve open space? So what are green spaces? Everybody's heard this word. It can mean anything, right? So our job was to somehow make a definition that everybody could engage with. I've been at many municipal meetings. I've sat on my community's comprehensive plan committee and attending zoning meetings, things like that, planning board reviews. It was always an issue that you have one constituent, it might be the frog people or the bird people, fighting against the other group, right? And against the developers in general, and how to delay the whole process as long as possible so nothing happens. So how could we come up with some kind of definition that would appeal to everybody? And that's informed by science. So, traditional approach, what's green space? All your junk, right? Vacant land, unbuildable land, farmland, floodplains, not farmland, obviously not useless land, but everything you can't put in any other category and usually can't be built on, we'll call that green space. So what we tried doing was just provide a place for communities to start an engagement. They have control over their land. They can decide what techniques to use to preserve all their special places and most sensitive land, but we'll just say what's connected, what's the big idea here that might unite all of this land together, and your community to other communities. So starting with green spaces, we just said all land is good land, right? Which happens to be the Winnicke Land Trust motto. I also sit on Winnicke's board. So we just took all the area of Dutchess County and said, let's assume everything is good. And then we'll decide what has less potential for rich biodiversity, flora and fauna. So Dutchess County is blessed with a lot of great GIS data. We have all of our structures and address points and things like that. We could take all of those and buffer them and come up with areas. And it was very interesting hearing you talk about the size of your buffers, because we started with different assumptions, but buffering every structure based on what the use of the structure is. You know, something that might be more disruptive, a parking lot or a shopping mall is going to have a larger buffer than a residence. But the idea here is to buffer them where do you have less chance of biodiversity than more, right? We're not making any real value judgments here. We're just saying, let's just figure out where you got good chance or not so good chance, right? We also took our roads. The county transportation folks have been doing vehicle trips per mile on all of our roads for years and years and years. We've got a great bank of data there about how many vehicles travel on roads, and thanks to Richard Foreman at Harvard, he came up with statistics for how to buffer road. Where does the noise and impact of vehicle trips per mile? You got more traffic per day. How does that affect the chance of wildlife being there? So what you have down in the southern part of the county here to kind of reference where you're at, that's I-84. So there's, I don't know, 600,000 vehicles per hour traveling on some insane amount. So the buffer there what's that?
Oh, I'm impressed by the number.
Yes, it's huge. So to give you a sense of scale, this is 2/3 of a mile buffer on either side of the edge of the road, right? So you can see here's another example. This is the Taconic Parkway. A lot more traffic down at the southern end, and it kind of peters out at the north. So again, more disturbance, less biodiversity. You got more traffic, you're going to have more disturbance. If you have a little 2-lane rural road that gets 3 cars on it a day, that's not necessarily a hindrance to wildlife crossing that road. It's different from Eric Kiviat, let's say, at Hudsonia, who would take that asphalt and take it out of the mix because it's not habitat per se. But for a small road, we looked at it a little more generically and we said, okay, let's just say wildlife still crosses that road as we know, and let's keep that in there. So once we subtracted all this from all land is good land, we came up with what we call biodiversity blocks, or our contiguous areas of potential habitat for rich flora and fauna. So you can see some areas of the county here have huge areas of connected wildlife. And again, no value judgment here. It's farms, it's everything there that can be considered not disrupted by human activity. And the other point of this here is that these large blocks of habitat cross municipal boundaries. So here's an opportunity for municipalities to work with an adjacent municipality to protect this land, or don't chop it up, at least, right? It's still up to the municipalities to say, well, I have this critical habitat thanks to the heritage work, different areas that are very special that need other kinds of preservation. This is just a place for people to start. And here again, you can see this is 11, close to 12,000 acres of unbroken habitat. You can see all the dots here. Those are the buffers around the houses and the buffers around the roads here. Again, it's up to the municipalities to come up with their own protection strategies for their special land. So this was the green space part of the Centers and Green Space Plan. So we put this together. We did little gazetteers for all of our communities. They're in review right now. We illustrated what is in their centers, what resources they have in their centers, vacant parcels, things like that, how they might change their zoning to accommodate more development in the centers, and then all of their natural habitat as well. How much green area do they have in their surrounding areas, just so they have a connection that, my God, I got a lot of stuff here that we should think about protecting. Here's an example of that, one of our web pages, and this also illustrates one of our success stories with the town and village of Red Hook. They were mentioned earlier today with the plans that they had, but what Red Hook's incorporated the Centers and Green Spaces planning principles into their zoning, and one thing they've come up with is agricultural business districts, where they developed a trading system for trading the development rights of farmlands up in the northern, and you see the darkest areas here. The farms up in the northern area of the county, with the areas around the center of the village of Red Hook and Tivoli, where development can happen. And actually, one of these projects is being implemented right now, just to the south of the center of the village of Red Hook. All of those pages are on our county website, so you can look at those. And here's just an example of Red Hook's study they did. They incorporated the Centers and Green Spaces into their zoning. Again, just go to the Dutchess County website and search for Centers and Green Spaces, and you'll come up to this page. And right now what we have up are our first couple of pages that are general, good examples of stuff that's going on in the county that adheres to these